you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another episode of All About Mechanics. Today is going to be Veteran Blackrose Prison. This is a very difficult 4-man arena. In fact, the hardest 4-man content by design. This is meant to be extremely difficult. You will have to take quite a bit of practice in here to get really good at it. But I'm going to explain all of the mechanics for all the ad pulls, the bosses, the lot. We're going to use the same setup as we do in the dungeon guides with 1 stam DPS, 1 mag DPS, 1 healer and 1 tank. And of course, patience is a virtue. You're going to have to make sure that you do have a fair bit of patience in here, because if you don't know what you're doing, you are going to get nuked a lot. But this is basically, in terms of difficulty, 4-man Maelstrom Arena, if you like. So you need to make sure that your team are willing to work together and pay attention to the base mechanics. It's very important. So, here we go. Now, these rounds are intense. There are lots and lots of ads, nasty bosses, and of course, base mechanics are your key primary focus in here. If you are with a group that is refusing to pay attention to base mechanics, and what I mean by that is light attacks, heavy attacks, dodge rolls, blocks, and interrupts, those types of things. If you are not really good at that kind of stuff and you can't spot an interruptible mechanic, you may want to go and do some other content and get used to it first. But those mechanics are key. You're going to need to make sure you pay full attention to what's going on. The tank will have to pull in anything that's ranged that can be chained, obviously, because then that way any interrupts, you don't have to run across the room to deal with them, plus they come in. The melees will come to you anyway, but there's a lot of them that fire at nasty heavy attacks that you have to get away from. Most DPSs won't be able to block the majority of the heavy attacks that they receive, so it needs to be on the tank. If it's on you, dodge roll instead. But as you can see here, the tank has pulled everything into the middle, and we're basically just putting down area of effect and dealing with single target on priority targets. There is a flame Atronach in the room that is throwing out nasty shapes across the floor. Just dodge your feet to make sure that you don't get caught by those as they come in, and you'll be just fine. Failing that, if you want to kill it, you can. The archers need interrupting at all costs, whether they're spawning or whether they're in the middle. It doesn't matter. You need to interrupt those, otherwise they will snipe and knock people out really fast. And a tank needs to make sure that above all, this 2-hander here gets prioritized with a taunt instantly, because that guy there, not only does he have more health, but he's the hardest hitter. He can actually one-shot a DPS or a healer, so you have to be very careful. At all points, you've got to keep heals coming, by the way, because there's a lot of damage over time in these arenas. As you can see there, fire has pulled in our archers straight away and instantly taunted that sword and board guy. He is as important as the last primary target, the 2-hander, because again, he has some nasty heavy attacks that will one-shot a DPS or a healer. So be very careful with those. By the way, the tank must block those heavy attacks, because if you don't, there's a very strong possibility that also the tank will die. As you can see, of course, there are Atronachs around the room. When you kill them, they kind of sit down, and then they'll get back up again afterwards when they're finished. But it's up to you. If you want to deal with those and kill them, that's fine. If not, you can just avoid their damage, keep a taunt on them from range from the tank so they don't pepper the group with fireballs, and then go from there. We've got more Atros here, so we are going to get hit quite hard, but keep the heals up. Now, each round in the first arena will have multiple melee targets, archers, and all that good stuff that are pretty much the same all the way through, but we are introducing new mechanics as we go. So this guy here, the Incinerator, he must be focused by the DPS. You do not want this guy to stay alive. And, above all, if you see him put his staff in the air and there's red sparks coming out of him, you have to interrupt him. If you don't, you're going to wipe your group, because they're just the same as a Flame Shaper that you're probably familiar with from Hellra Citadel, where they put their hand in the air and loads of fireballs come out and they nuke the group. Don't let that happen. They are a priority. You must get them down first before anything else. If there's loads and loads of melee targets, little ones or big ones, that doesn't matter. The tank can manage those for most part as long as they maintain a taunt, but the Incinerators must go down. Now, you'll notice, of course, that the archers are being pulled in and the melees are not. That is because the melees will come into the group no matter what. Anyway, they just need to be taunted. But the ranged ones won't do unless you manipulate their position. So you have to either taunt them and run backwards and let them come into the middle, or chain them in. Save your resources for chaining in the ranged. Again, we've got a sword and board in the middle. Watch out for those guys. They're not really high priority in comparison to the Incinerators. Obviously, Incinerators must go first. But the sword and board and the 2-handers, the cleavers, they have to be priority targets for the tank. You must maintain a taunt on those at all time. If you drop one of the small adds, it's not the end of the world, but if you drop him, you're going to kill everyone. So be very careful. Again, the Atros around the room are not really that much of a problem as long as you watch your feet. But if you are struggling and they are causing too much of an issue as far as your health sustain is concerned, then of course you can kill those and they'll be gone for a little while before they respawn. Round 3 isn't too bad, pretty much the same as what you've seen before. There are archers around the edges that need to be interrupted and chained in. There's melee targets that will come in. Of course, the cleaver and the sword and board guy must be primaried by the tank. Again, full taunts on those. Do not let it drop. And incinerators are primary targets regardless of what's left in the room. So if these are all gone, obviously it's not a problem. But if they're still hanging around, you've got some ads from the next pool that are in the middle. Don't prioritize the ads. Prioritize the incinerators. You can see here we're hitting some of the atros just to release the pressure. Archers come straight in, melees will run in, interrupt them as and when, and here comes an incinerator on the far left. He's already been interrupted once, but he's going to do it again. It's quite fast paced, you have to pay attention to it. So while Screw's keeping an eye on that interrupt and Fire has pulled it into the group by going backwards and bringing it in again, we're actually now in a really decent position to kill everything at once. If you can't do that, don't worry. Your tank doesn't have to go above and beyond to be able to push everything together, but it just helps if you can. If you can't, then both DPS go and kill that incinerator before anything else happens. There's one at the back. Again, it's been interrupted straight away. That was a very fast interrupt, and that's exactly what you should be looking out for. Your primary focus should not be kill everything really fast. Your primary focus should be on the mechanics of the dangerous targets. Those guys must be interrupted. The rest of it, you can take as long as you like. Now we've got a few ads left in the middle here, nothing really special. They can mostly die to AoE, so just watch your feet from now and then focus that sword and board and make sure you don't stand in front of him. The tank should be holding it relatively still for the most part and just maintain a taunt. If you stand in front of him, as you saw, he breathes fire. You don't want to get caught by that. It will be really nasty and put a hefty dot on you, which the healer will then have to cleanse and or heal over. Can be quite tricky. Now this is pretty much the same as the last round, except the spawns are a little bit faster. You've got a cleaver straight away, which the tank should primary. You've got archers coming in, which of course are being pulled in with the chains. Just make sure you're on the interrupts for those. There's 2 cleavers, in fact. They're both very close. You have to grab them as the tank ASAP. If you don't, the group is going to get whacked with frontal AoE and die. So make sure that, of course, as DPS, you do focus these when you get the chance. But the positioning of them is key. They must be grabbed by the tank. If they're not, they're going to go and one-shot a DPS. If you are heavy attacked as a DPS or a healer, time it and you can dodge roll the heavy, but if you don't, you're dead. Next up, of course, is the incinerator. Again, you have to make sure that you pay attention to these and you have to interrupt them. If you don't, it's a wipe. So again, mindset, your goal is to interrupt that target. Don't worry about anything else in the room as a DPS, focus that. The rest of them can all be held together by the tank and kept alive. Of course, the tank can be kept alive by the healer. Now, of course, once that's done, there is another incinerator in the room, so it helps if you can actually split up as DPS and take one each. But if not, then just have the tank or the healers pay attention to one while the other DPS is on the other. It's up to you how you coordinate that, but just pay attention. They will need interrupting. Flame breath there, which is really nasty. Make sure the tank grabs that as quick as possible, because now you've got 3 nasty melee targets. We've got one down now. That was a cleaver. You end up with a cleaver and 2 sword and boards. They can whip as well, so watch out. Now you can probably see that around the room there's 4 blue synergies. The shield will give you a damage shield that will protect you from projectiles and such. The cup or the goblet will give you a health regen bonus. The wings will give you a speed buff. And the crystal or the soul gem will actually resurrect your entire group. So instead of standing there trying to res everyone and you're the last one alive, pop that synergy and everyone will get up. You will lose points for using those, but if you want to use them strategically to make your run a lot easier or successful, you are more than welcome to do so. Just the same as Maelstrom Arena, except instead of a damage bonus, there is a res bonus. Final boss of this round, try to hold her as much in the center as possible if you can manage it, and do as much damage as you can. Basically, watch your feet, don't stand in stupid, there is going to be a lot of it. She has a nasty heavy attack in the form of a whip, and then she does this. This here, when this happens, everybody spread out and block. If you don't spread out and block, they will overlap and you will kill each other. You have to have your own space. Also, bear in mind, if you're not full health in your block, you will die. So make sure that you've got full health and spread out. It's pretty much a stack and burn fest for the most part. Again, when she does that, spread out, block, and survive, watch your feet, because there are flame atros throwing shapes all over the place. However, if that is a problem, you can make her go around the room and stack her on one atro after the other and get rid of them. Choice is yours. Stack in the middle or kill them. This is really simple. When she does this, find a gap, move around in a circle in a clockwise rotation so you don't get touched by any AoE while still doing your damage. If you can't do rotations doing that circle, don't worry, just go around in a circle till it's over. You can pace it, there's no rush. Yes, of course, we've got a decent amount of DPS in this group, and you can do it even faster if you really want to nuke it, but we're showing you the mechanics. So block this, fight the boss, block that, fight the boss again, go around in a circle. The rest of the time, of course, the tank must block those heavy attacks. And again, like I said, if you are struggling with those Atronachs around the room, instead of placing her in the middle, you can place her on an Atronach, kill it and her at the same time, move on to the next and the next and the next. Or just make your group run around and kill them all. There's lots of different ways to do that, but if you are feeling pressured by the Atronachs, you can either kill them or take the shield synergy and take some of the pressure off. It does require a little bit of coordination in there, but most of it is actually panic. Most people think, oh my god, fire, we're all going to die. We're vampires, etc, etc. You've had it all before. We're actually all a stage 4 vampire. As you can see, there's no vampire buff in my timer because I am of max level. There's no cooldown for me to get to the next rank. So it isn't a problem. It's a full fire round, but as long as you watch your feet, you'll be fine. Now, the second arena is completely different to the last one. We have what I like to call bombs going around the room. Now, there's netches around the outside, all the way around the outside, and they're moving constantly. If you attack or aggro or annoy one of them, they will explode. And how they usually do this, they normally come up to you and explode. So when they get to you, let them stop, get out of the way, let them blow up, and then come back in again. You'll see that in a moment. But priority targets in this particular arena are Hackwings and Spiders, no matter what. You have to make sure you kill the Spiders, otherwise they put a really, really nasty dot on whoever they're aggro to, or whoever they're attacking, and it's very hard to survive through. The Hackwings, they charge across the room and knock you down. That's really annoying. But there are some even stronger targets, and these are the ones you got to watch out for. These Crocodiles and Horvers. The Crocodiles are primary for the tank. You must grab them as soon as possible because they'll one-shot the group with their tail whip. And the Horvers do a very, very tiny frontal AoE spit. And if you get caught by that as a DPS or a healer, you will die. So, the priority targets as far as damage is concerned is you must kill the Spiders, otherwise you get a nasty dot. As you can see, I've got one on me now, and it's quite hefty. We've got some big heals coming though, so it's okay. The Hackwings need to be killed because they knock you down, but they're more of an annoyance rather than a focus. So everything in here is basically like old school Craglorn. Basically anything that you look at will kill you. So again, kill the Spiders first, make the tank prioritize the Crocodiles and the Horvers, and then kill them as you can, and then the Hackwings obviously have to die as well. Now we've got a Beastmaster. Now these are a bit annoying, the archers that do nasty arrow spray effects and all that good stuff. They have to be interrupted if they try and snipe as well, but it's not the end of the world if you don't focus this guy. Deal with whatever else is left in the room first. As you can see there, he's in a bit of an awkward position because the squid is now coming past, the netch. If you aggro that, it will hit you. The ones that go around the room and don't deviate from their rotation, those will glow red and shoot you with lightning. But this guy here that comes in, obviously he wants to hit one of us. Now, what they usually do is they will emit a bomb in the middle of the room. There you go, he's going to explode. So once that goes off, you just let it go off and get out of the way, and he'll go away again. But he has to stop. As you can see, boom, he's gone. Now, if you start running away from him while dealing with the Spiders and the ads, of course, these are important, he will just chase and chase and chase. But if you stand still, he'll do that explosion. As long as you let the bomb go off and you're not standing in it, you're safe. But that's the way to deal with those. Now we've got Hudge Motor in the room. These are evil. Of course, our primary focus is the Spiders. The tank has to focus on the Crocodile, but this guy must be turned away from the group at all times. If you look now, he's going to put his head into the ground and then flick out loads of nasty 180-degree AoEs across the floor. If you get caught by those as a DPS and you don't have a very strong damage shield, resistances, or high health, you are dead. So the tank must turn the Hudge Motor away from the group at all times. He's got a very awkward hitbox. He does dive around the room from time to time, but you have to make sure he's always turned away from the group. Now, if you are beside him, left or right, and he's about to duck his head into the ground, again, you have to get out of that 180, otherwise they will go sideways and they will get you. So always stay on his back end if you can help it. No matter where that guy decides to go, the tank must always turn it away from the group. It's really, really risky. Now, the Beast Handler here is basically the end of the round. Once he's done, it's all over with. But, of course, the Spiders are in the room, and you need to focus those down. Now, we have agreed to deal with the Beast Handler or the Beastmaster. Wildfire is going to pull these in, but remember, your priority targets are these Spiders. If they are aimed at a DPS and they put poison on them, they will kill them. So be very, very careful. We had 3 in the room then. They do spawn throughout the round. You do have to pay attention to them. And just remember that although there are things that can kill you, the Crocodiles, the Horvers, the Hudge Motors, you do have to focus your priority targets. Always kill those Spiders. Same again, next round, Spiders and Hackwings always come together. Watch that charge. And this Troll needs to be now focused by the tank. you have to grab it and turn it away from the group. Watch the bomb, get out again. Stay away from him until he slams the ground, because when he does, if you're caught in that, you will take a one shot, unless you're the tank. So keep an eye on him, keep your damage up on him, and if he starts to slam the ground, having a little fit, get out. If you get caught by one tick of it, you're going to die. Crocodile here, make sure you call it if the tank hasn't seen it already, because the tank has to taunt it, because that tail whip will kill you. Same mechanic as Slime Crawler in Way West 1. He turns to one side, there's a big whip, and basically it'll just, instead of knock you down, it will kill you in one hit. This troll, for some reason, is having an absolute fit. He's supposed to be standing still punching stuff, but we got lucky. But anyway, he will hit the tank and then do frontal AoE effects and slam the ground in a circle AoE. Again, pay attention to that. Our primary focus is the troll. The crocodile will be no problem to us as long as we don't stand in front of it, and as long as the tank is always remaining in a position where he's got a taunt on it. The beast handler, of course, is important to finish the round, but the troll goes first. Stay out of his area of effect on the ground. Make sure you interrupt when he's channeling, and stay out of his frontal AoE. Again, you can see the squid guys coming in and out. Just be careful. The ones surrounding, again, if you aggro them, they'll do lightning shots at you and do poison if you stand under them. And the ones that keep coming in, stand still if you know you're being focused by one. And when it stops at you, ready to put an AoE on the ground, and it's going to go bang, get out of the explosion. They'll go back and reset. Everything's good. Now, this is where things get really, really tricky, because we now see a new mechanic or a new enemy being introduced to the fight. So we still have to remember our priority targets. Spiders first. No matter what happens, the tank is needing to be in control of this stuff, so make sure the crocodiles are taunted, but spiders first. Hackwings need to be dealt with as well, so they don't knock you down, but spiders' damage is so high you don't want that to actually catch you. As you can see there, squid comes in, blows up, walk away, goes off again. There's one there coming in, stand still, let it annoy, then bang, go away. It's just a bomb. That's all you have to think of it as. Don't look at it as a big net that's going to kill everybody. It's going to come in, do a dance, and leave again. Just don't stand under it. Again, spiders, now we've got a whammer suit. This is what we've been looking out for. You really want to focus these spiders to get the dot off you, and the tank needs to put the whammer suit out of the way, but watch, because when he stomps, you see that stuff across the floor there? Don't get touched by that. What he'll do is a little bit of a wiggle, he'll go up on his back legs, slam the ground, and then multiple AoEs will spread out from all around his body. If you're close, it's going to be really hard to spot where they're going, and if you're not, it's a lot easier to get out of the way of. As you can see there, he's going to do a squat again, so we need to stand back. The trick to the whammer suit is to stay back unless you've got a stupid amount of damage. He has three basic mechanics. He will do this, basically where he slams the ground and the circles will go around the room and you have to get out of them. He will do a lightning breath at the tank, and he will also aim at one person at random, which is why you need to spread out a bit and find your own feet so you can see who the target is. If he aims at you and you're sure he's aiming at you, dodge roll, because he's going to do a lightning bolt straight at you. Now, they are quite weak in terms of their health, but if you are struggling, just pace it, get rid of all the ads first, and then deal the whammer suit, but stay away. Make sure the tank is, of course, taunting everything and keeping it away from the group. It helps if you can keep it in the middle, because then you don't have to keep dealing with the netches. But how you deal with that fight is entirely up to you. Just remember that the whammer suit's stomp mechanic is really, really dangerous. You don't want to get caught. Now, this can be very simple, but normally ends in tears. When the boss enters the room, of course, you can do as much damage as you like and try and get him down quickly, but just remember there are mechanics in here that are based off of his health percentage. So if you want to, it helps to pay attention to the actual primary targets in the room, being the spiders and the hackwings. They will spawn throughout the fight. It's not once they're gone, they're gone. They will continuously spawn. You don't want to get overwhelmed with them, so focus these. You can actually take as long on the boss as you like. He will teleport around the room. He will need to be interrupted because he'll try and snipe the tank, and he needs to be taunted at all times. Now, there are other mechanics in here as well. Now, I haven't gone over it yet, but there's some called the bees or the flies or whatever you want to call them. You have to pay attention to that. 75% will get a troll in the room. You must focus the troll at the same time as focusing the spiders. But now we've got an insect swarm, which is bees or flies, whatever you want to call them. Now, what you need to do is stack at least 3 of you in the circle and heal throughout it to make sure that you spread the damage across the group and not one person just takes all the swarm damage. If you do take all the swarm damage yourself, you're going to die unless you're a really, really, really chunky tank, which is rare. Again, primary targets at all times. If you get that in an awkward place, by the way, whoever it's on, you must stack on them. But if there are AoEs near you that are going to kill you, just try and manipulate yourself a little bit so you're around the circle where you can still be in it, but not in the way. Under 60% health, pushing towards 57-ish. The Hudge Motor will be in the room. These are deadly. remember your primary targets. Keep that boss taunted, keep the Hajimoto taunted, keep the ads taunted if there are any as the tank. Make sure you interrupt the boss. You don't have to burn him. Kill the spiders and the Hackwings at all costs. Keep the Hajimoto turned away from the group. We got really lucky then. It aimed at us and did the AoEs and it actually missed us. You don't want to get caught by that. That's a wipe. Now, once the spiders and the Hackwings are dead, that's when you focus on the Hajimoto. You don't have to go nuts and panic. You've got all the time in the world. This is not a DPS race. But the sooner you can get rid of that Hajimoto, the better. Be very, very careful. Save your ultimates for this if you can. While it's diving around the room, don't chase it necessarily if you are going to get caught by netches. Just be careful where you're standing. The tank must turn that away from the group at all times, and if it's in a position where it can't be turned because it's being awkward, then you stand behind it instead. Pace it, kill it, and then move on to the next phase. As you can see here, we've got the bees again. We're trying to stay together. We are getting AoEs with us. We're going to have to move as a group and stay in it so that we don't die, but once it's gone, it's gone. If you run out of that during its phase, you will kill whoever's got the bees on them. Again, the boss is still here, the Hajimoto's dead, but we've got spiders and Hackwings. Make sure you kill the small stuff. The boss can be there all day, it doesn't matter. Take your time. If you want to nuke this, of course you can go for it, but you are going to overlap mechanics, so be careful. That mechanic there, by the way, he will root you occasionally. You need to dodge roll out of it to get out, otherwise you're going to die. Around the 35% mark, there is a Wamasu. Now, you've seen this before, you know what to do. Stay away from it if you don't have really high damage, so that you can see the AoE on the ground and you can wiggle between them. Failing that, if you've got loads of damage, then of course, focus it down as quick as you can. If you get spiders and Hackwings at the same time, of course, make sure that you do kill those. Now, once the Wamasu, the Hajimoto, the Troll, and all that stuff is gone, it's relax time. Nothing else is going to go wrong. You can get Hackwings and spiders and the boss, and that is it. So take your time. Kill the ads, then onto the boss. Kill the ads, then onto the boss. You've got all the time in the world. Yeah, of course, we went for the nuke at the end. You can do that if you want. But if you want to stick to the mechanics and you are struggling, take a breath, get in the middle of the room, get your resources back, all that good stuff, and just relax. As long as the main big targets are down, you don't have any more stress than what you've already had. In fact, it gets a lot easier. Execute, strangely enough, on that boss is easy in comparison to the rest of the fight. Usually execute is quite stressful, but on that boss it's not. Everything is gone, it's now time to calm down. Now, the next round is stressful because this is very similar to the first round in that you have a lot of interrupts to pay attention to or else. The last round was more priority targets. This one is more pay attention to what you're doing, otherwise you're dead. So to start with, you have your basic enemies that come in, melee kind of zombie types, which are really easy to deal with. The tank can just pin them up together while they come in. But the cold mages must be pulled in ASAP and taunted. If they start peppering a DPS with their ice attacks, they will die incredibly fast. Now, these are the big ones, the infusers. Pay attention to these and focus them. You usually get 2 to 3 at a time. So the tank is now going to manipulate these so they're actually in the middle of the room. But if not doable, don't worry. Just pay attention to interrupts. If you don't interrupt that mechanic where he's putting his hands together and praying all red and shiny, you will end up dead because he will enrage the entire room. In the meantime, watch these swirling portals around the room. You don't want to stand in those just yet. Always interrupt that. If you fail as a group to interrupt any of these infusers, you are going to die. So pay full attention on the one mechanic that you need to know in here, and that is interrupt those targets. Next wave is very simple. We've got a gargoyle at the back. He is really dangerous, but we don't want to focus him. We want to focus the infuser. Once the infuser's down, there will be no enrage mechanics. If you don't kill the infusers and you don't interrupt them, they will enrage. Now, I'm focusing on one over here, and Screw is focusing on one on the other side. That way, we've both got both interrupts covered. There's 2 infusers. If your tank can stack them, great, it's a lot easier to manage with, but in the meantime, pay attention to them, because they could be on the run in and then doing their interruptible mechanic, and it's too late. So once they are down, then you focus on the gargoyle. Be aware, by the way, the heavy attacks for this are insane, so the tank needs to make sure they block and look out for those ones. So once everything is down, then you get rid of the big, shiny, flappy dude in the middle. Now, you'll notice that there's some undead running around the room as well. The melee ones will come in, they're not too stressful, but the ranged ones must be pulled. Otherwise, they're going to put out nasty fire and ice attacks, and you really don't want to get caught by them, especially not the fire line across the floor, because that will kill you. Melees, again, will come in, so you don't need to chain those. Just make sure you taunt them when they get there. And infusers are priority targets. I'm focusing on this one, while Screw is keeping an eye on the other side of the room, and the tank is now pulling them in together. So as long as you keep on interrupts, it doesn't matter if you kill them quickly or not. What matters is that you pay attention to those interrupts. If not, the whole room will have enraged ads. You won't survive. It's very, very rare, in fact, that you'll survive. So pay very close attention. Also be careful not to get too many people onto these portals, because if the ads start running into them too much, they'll end up turning into a bone colossus, and then you'll get one of those in the room that must be taunted by the tank. Otherwise, the heavy attack hit and the DPS will kill them. You can dodge it if you're quick, but if you get caught by it, you're dead. The tank as well, you must block it. But we'll deal with those later because we didn't actually spawn any in here. Just try not to suck up the portals and try not to leave the ads in them for too long. The AoEs on the ground you can of course avoid, so just be careful with those. They're not too bad, you can actually heal through them, but don't deliberately put yourself in shit, because otherwise you're just making it more difficult for your group. If you find that you're taking too much damage overall, of course don't forget you do have those synergies, you can utilize them. No one's going to judge you for taking synergies when you're going for a completion. It only matters if you're really going for a leaderboard score, which most people do not. So it's more about the completion and getting it done. If you want to go for that leaderboard stuff later on, of course, more practice, and then you don't need to take the synergies anyway. Now, infusers are first, we know this already. Cold mages must be pulled in, we know this as well, so deal with those. One infuser each just to keep an eye on interrupts while the tank is moving them around the room. So pay very close attention. You'll see that myself and Screw have actually split up. And Super, although he's a healer, is also keeping a very close eye on any interrupts that may need to be done, because remember, everyone can interrupt. So focus one infuser at a time once they're in position. Faye and that have one apiece, and then whichever one dies first, help with the other one. Once they're down, deal with the remaining ads. Now we've got a gargoyle coming in from the right, and there will be an infuser coming as well. So be very, very careful. He's at the back there, which I'm going straight for, and I want to make sure I'm in range so I can get those interrupts quickly. As long as you focus that target, you will be just fine. Cold mages do need to be pulled in, and ranged undead need to be pulled in as well. Nice little stack there, but watch your feet from that portal. You don't want to get sucked into it. Once they're all gone, it's a bit of a mess. You will need those on the boss, however, so I'll explain that in a moment. Now, we've got just the cold mage left and some undeads. The undeads need to be pulled in. You don't want to keep them hanging around the portal too much. They do come out of the portals later as well, but I'll explain that when it gets to the boss. But you need to focus these ads down as quickly as you can so you take the pressure off the group, while of course killing the gargoyle. He is not, again, a primary target. He hits hard, yes, but he's just a big chunk in the middle. He's not your main concern. Your main concern is getting the damage off the group, interrupting infusers, and then dealing with it and pacing it as you can. Now this round is where people trip up quite a bit, because we do have some really big beefy DPS types in here. We've got a couple of gargoyles, we've got 3 infusers to deal with, just like we did on the first round, so we've got multiple mechanics going on at once here. Watch out for those little cleaves there, they do hurt. Keep on infuser interrupts. You can see one to my far right over there. Fire had to actually go up and interrupt it himself, because the ranged DPS was nowhere near it, didn't even see it, and the healer was nowhere near either, and neither was I. So you have to make sure that as a group someone spots it. You assign people if you have to, but someone has to interrupt. We've got 3 of them in the middle now. It's really, really mental, so you have to be very, very careful. Once they're all stacked, obviously you can burn them down and just interrupt when they're close. Failing that, if you can't stack them, then have one person on each one just to keep up the interrupts, and as they die one after the other, you then kind of consolidate your group onto the last remaining ones. That is a stressful pull. It's very, very difficult. But again, once they're down, you want to focus on the cold mages. They are really, really nasty. They will whoop DPSs really quickly. The melee stuff, again, will just come in straight away. Now, as you can see, we've got skeletons and a mage. The mages have to come in first, so your tank should prioritize anything that is ranged. And now we've got 2 gargoyles. They need to be taunted before they get anywhere near the group. So range taunt as much as you can to get hold of those. If you don't get them quickly, their focus will be running at a DPS and nuking them. It's really, really dangerous. Now, our focus should be on any ads remaining, and then the gargoyles afterwards. But since there's 2 gargoyles, the tank is going to be really, really under pressure now. So we try to get 1 down just to kind of release that pressure a bit, and then you can focus on the other stuff if they're still alive. I think Screw is now going to go out to the back and hit the last one while Fire pulls them in. We're safe. They didn't come out. Now, those portals actually spawned skeletons, as you may have saw just then. 3 came out of a portal because it disappeared. Now, that is going to be relevant for here, because when we take the portal, which we're going to need to if we get cursed or tethered, once we take it to cleanse ourselves, the skeletons will come out. So be very, very careful of those. Now, basically, to start with, is a bit of a stack and burn until the ads start coming in. She will do nasty bat attacks, and she'll also do like a invigorating drain, where she will stun the target and drain life off of them. So stay out of the bats, interrupt when she does the Invigorating Drain, and then carry on as normal. You can get her out of the AoE if you want, if not just hold her there and the DPS will just have to watch their feet. But skeletons will spawn, pull them in, focus the ads. As you can see there, I'm cursed and tethered by her. Find a portal, stand in it. If you take that, skeletons will come out of it, but it will cleanse you. If you don't get there quick enough, you will die. Again, your ads are the primary focus in this fight. So while the tank is holding on to the boss, while you're interrupting when she Invigorating Drains people, and while you're staying out of the bats, and while you're also cleansing your curses, you must focus the ads. As you can see, the room is very, very calm when the ads are gone. She only really focuses on the main target except for her base mechanics, which is the Invigorating Drain. The rest of the time, it's just hold her still and we'll kill her. More skeletons are spawning, bring them in. Melees will come in, ranged won't. Unfortunately, we've got 3 ranged here, so the tank's job is a little difficult. But try not to run around the room too much. Try and keep her as focused in the middle as you can. She does spawn a Bone Colossus every so often, as you can see here at around the 60% mark. She's spawned one and she is tethered to it. She is immune. If you don't kill that Bone Colossus, you won't kill her. If you get caught by the heavy attack of the Bone Colossus, you are dead. So pay close attention to that. Your priority targets in this fight are always the ads and especially the Bone Colossus. The Bone Colossus must die first. Also, don't stand near a heavy attack, even as a DPS, because it's AoE kind of in front of her. It's quite small, but it will catch you, so you have to be really, really careful. Don't stand in front of the boss. Now, you see over there, Scrooge just now cleansed himself, and then 3 skeletons came out again, so we've got even more ads. Again, the tank should just hold the boss in the middle and chain in all the ads. Melees will come in, ranged will not, so chain the ranged ones. You don't necessarily have to taunt them all, but you do have to make sure you interrupt them and kill them as a DPS. The longer the fight goes on, of course, the more mechanics you'll see overlapping. It depends on how quickly you actually kill her. But again, stick to the rules. Get out of the bats, interrupt the Invigorating Drain, cleanse yourself, and kill the ads. It's quite simple. And if you see a Bone Colossus, always primary it. It's your main focus. But at low health, there's a nasty pull coming up. So around the 35% mark, she will get out another Bone Colossus, and there'll be a couple of ads in the room. As you can see quite clearly, there are infusers. What happens if infusers are not interrupted? They will enrage the group, including the boss. So your primary focus is 100% that Bone Colossus, otherwise the boss can't take any damage and people will get heavy attacked. But your mechanical focus is 100% on that infuser. You must interrupt it at all costs and then kill it before killing anything else apart from the Bone Colossus. So Bone Colossus, kill it, infuse it, interrupt it and kill it, ads deal with them afterwards, then go to the boss. Now this phase here, you can actually focus her down if you prefer, if you think you can manage it. But I would not advise you to get Execute Panic, because there is another wave of enemies now coming. Another infuser on the left, one on the right, and a Bone Colossus at around the 20 and below mark, so sort of around 15%. It's really, really risky trying to nuke her, but you can if you want to, but again, it's at your own risk. What you really want to do, focus the Bone Colossus, keep up the interrupts on the infusers. What we're doing here is we are forcing mechanics. We're not burning down the boss and just going YOLO. We have killed the Bone Colossus, we're now on the infuser, and then we're going to stick to that. It's very, very important, especially if you are worried about failing, because this is quite high pressure when you get to this phase, to stick to the rules. As long as you do that, you will be just fine. As you can see, this isn't getting any more difficult. We're just basically gradually burning down the enemies and keeping up the interrupts. It's very, very straightforward, but it just looks like chaos. Key focus. Infusers interrupted. Bone Colossus must die. Cleanse your curses. Stay out of bats and interrupt the Invigorating Drain. It's a very chilled fight if you understand every single mechanic and relax, but it can be utter chaos if you panic and run around the room like a headless chicken. Focus as a group, coordinate, and understand what everything does. If you have a mindset of just kill the boss and think about nothing else, you're going to miss the interrupts, you're going to end up with a Bone Colossus running around the room, and everyone's going to die. So just relax, focus as a group, and coordinate. Very, very important. This is deliberately hard because that is what is required of you in that fight. Now this round is awful. I hope you remember everything you've seen so far, because you're going to use it all at once. We are going to get everything from the last 3 rounds, including the bosses. So, tanks, be ready for this. Priority targets are spiders because of their damage over time. Make sure that you get them down as fast as possible and make sure they are aggroed by the tank so we don't get repeated dots. And at the same time, the cleavers from the first round are in, which do heavy attack the group and need to be held by the tank in the middle. Make sure they don't hit the group and don't stand in front of them because of their cleave. So again, this round so far, grab the big stuff, kill the spiders. quite straightforward. And stay away from the squid, because remember, they will come in and they will hit you. And also they will hit you with nasty lightning attacks. Now we have an infuser, which is from the last round. What do we do with these? Focus them and interrupt them at the same time. Wow, at the other side of the room we have an incinerator, which also needs to be interrupted. So the incinerator has to be interrupted, otherwise flames go everywhere. The infusers have to be interrupted, otherwise everyone gets enraged and they do loads and loads of damage. We've got 2 incinerators and 1 infuser at the same time. So interrupts are 100% key. If you can't interrupt, I don't know how you got to this round in the first place, but now you need to pay attention to it more than ever. Very, very important. Now the tank can manipulate them and put them into the middle of the room, of course, if they're experienced, but if not, focus on one at a time, but make sure you split up for your interrupts. Make sure you've got a ranged one at least in your group. Crocodiles need to be focused as far as the tank is concerned. All the melee stuff will come in anyway, so just hold them still, and make sure that you kill these in a nice little bunch. Horvers and crocodiles can one-shot, so be very, very careful. They must be taunted. Then we've got the Beastmaster, which isn't too dangerous. He just stands there and fires off shots. He's really easy to deal with. Just get him into the middle of the room and kill him. Make sure you interrupt him if he does a snipe, and stay out of the arrow spray. These are probably the least dangerous enemies in the entire dungeon, or arena, whatever you want to call it. Now this isn't going to get any easier, unfortunately. It's going to get even worse. So you've seen incinerators, infusers, crocodiles, spiders, cleavers. You've seen pretty much everything so far. Now we've got archers to come in. We've got flame atronachs in the room. We've got squid in the room. Bring all these ads in and control them. Make sure you interrupt the incinerator first of all, because he is obviously a primary target. You must kill him, you must interrupt him. At the back there you can see there's an archer trying to wind up a snipe. Luckily the tank can handle that because he just sucked up a snipe. But make sure you bring those in. If you do struggle, kill the atronachs. It'll take some of the pressure off. Failing that, get that sword and board. He is a pain in the ass. Don't stand in front of him. Make sure the tank is taunting him. All the rest of the ads are quite small, so don't panic. And now watch your feet, because the atronachs are firing flames across the ground. There is a lot going on here. Now, what you need to look for are these. You see the incinerator there? Priority targets. But the boss, block and spread out. The first boss is now in the room at the same time as we have all of these mechanics going on. So, your primary targets at this point in time are not actually the boss or the mini ads. Your primary target right now is the 2 incinerators and staying out of trouble and blocking. That boss is going through the motions, doing his mechanics. Doesn't matter how long he's there. Just get him with the tank, hold him still, deal with the mechanics, and now just ignore the boss until all of the ads are gone. Remember this phase? Go around in a clockwise rotation, stay out of the fire. You won't take any fire damage if you don't touch the fire. It's very, very simple. That sounds oversimplified, but it's a fact. That boss has not caused us any problems so far. The tank has been the one dealing with it. All we've had to do is block the meteors and go around in the circle. Now, once all the ads are dealt with, especially the priority targets, then the boss will go down after half health and disappear. And that is round over. So, you may want to watch that again, but it's nowhere near as stressful as it first looked. Interrupt the big ones, get down the big ones, finish the ads, and then focus the boss. Now, the next round is even more mental, because here we basically duplicate a lot of the second round, which is spiders, hackwings, and of course the archer boss. And what comes with the archer boss? He drops ads, doesn't he? Big ones. Yeah, they're coming. So focus your targets. Spiders first, hackwings have to go with them as well, then the Beastmaster handler. He again is one of the easiest ones to deal with because he doesn't really do a lot. You can just stand there and hit him. So if there's any ads alive while he's up, get rid of him. He's not a problem. The tank must obviously focus him though, because you need to taunt on him. Spiders, priority targets, make sure you kill them. Do not leave those spiders alive. There's too much damage coming in for you to take a dot from that as well. You don't want the lot. But now we have a Hudge motor. Now pay very close attention to this particular wave. Those spiders, while we were dealing with them, the tank has to deal with the Hudge motor and turn it away from the group. Otherwise, while you've got your back to him, he's very likely to do his 180-degree AoE and you're going to die. So make sure that is turned away. As you can see, the tank has put it in the far corner and trying to keep it turned away from the group all the time. If you are halfway past his body at the back, you won't get caught by the AoE. If you're halfway past his body at the front or in front, you will get caught. So watch your positioning. Give the tank some space. It is tricky to manipulate his position. But as you can see, the tank has just run past us and he's trying to make it so that the Hudge motor can stop in the middle of the room. And then our first port of call is to go behind it. Make sure you stay on its back at all times. It's really, really tricky if you don't, and you don't really have much of an opportunity to res here. Yes, you have the res synergy, but If you've already used it, you're screwed. So this isn't a stressful pull if you don't make it stressful. You can kill down the Atronauts if you want, if they're causing a problem, but if not, try and stay in the middle as much as you can, and always stay behind that Ninja Turtle. Now, of course, we've still got more. It's not over yet. The second boss from the second round is now in the middle of the room. So, get your damage on him, but interrupt his snipes, and the tank has to grab the crocodiles. If you run away, by the way, the tank is going to have issues grabbing those crocs. So be really, really careful. Dodge roll the attacks or get out if you have to, but don't run too far. Just be really, really careful that you don't make it more difficult. The crocodiles need to go down first. Completely ignore the boss until the crocodiles are down if you have to. As long as he's taunted, as long as you dodge roll out of those routes, you'll be just fine. Then turn your focus on the boss. However, when his health goes down, you need to be very, very careful. I took a synergy by accident there, but never mind. That's a shield. We'll take it. So, once he goes down to 75% health roughly, that's when the troll comes in. Tank should stack that on the boss. Watch out for the bees and stack together and heal. Do not stand in the AoE of that troll, whether it's frontal or AoE. Doesn't matter which one of the two you are dealing with. Do not stand on it. Now, when the boss goes down to a certain amount of health, when he goes low, he will disappear, and any adds that are with him will also disappear. So you can choose to just nuke the boss if you want and ignore the troll, but if it hits the group, you're dead. Fourth round. We've seen two bosses so far. First round boss, second round boss. Now we're going to see the third round boss. We're getting the vampire boss shortly. So, very simple. Bring the bats in, deal with the melees, and interrupt anything that needs interrupting, but above all, bring those ice mages in. The cold mages must be pulled in by the tank instantly. You've got to be quick on those because they will kill people very, very fast. You can take sometimes 21k hits from those. Infusers are in the room. What do you do with infusers? We've seen these already. You should know by now if you've got this far. Interrupt them. There are two infusers on this side of the room, one near the squid over there and one near me, and there's a gargoyle in the room. Let the tank deal with the gargoyle. It's not going to kill him. Just make sure that he blocks the heavy attacks while everybody focuses on interrupts. It is not a DPS race. It doesn't matter whether those infusers last 10 seconds or 10 minutes. What is important is that you must interrupt them. No interrupt, no pass. You will die because they will enrage that gargoyle, it will whoop the tank, and then everyone else is just an inevitable death. So infusers first, then the adds, then focus on the gargoyle. As you can see, it's calmed right down now. We've just got some adds in the room that need to be pulled in. The gargoyle's having a little fit in the middle, which we shouldn't stand near anyway. And it's basically just stack and burn at this point. There's lots of AoEs on the ground, of course, so watch your feet. Don't stand in the portals if you can help it, otherwise you'll get more skeletons. And in the meantime, here comes the boss. You remember her from the last actual arena? Very simple. Invigorating drains need interrupting. Bats you need to stay out of. And if you get cursed, stand in the portal. That's why you don't want to nuke the portals straight away, because if you do accidentally stand them too often, you've got nothing to cleanse it. But we've got infusers, so get off the boss. Don't focus the boss if you can't push her to a low health level quick enough, because otherwise you risk these guys not being interrupted, and of course you will end up dead. You don't want to enrage her. So if you're going mechanic heavy, focus the infusers, get those down first, and then come back to the boss. In the meantime, make sure of course that you deal with cleansers. As you saw then, Screw got cursed and didn't cleanse it, and then I got cursed and had to. If he would have got away with it, we would have been fine, but she will just go from one person to the next if someone doesn't make it. So be very, very clear that you actually get to that portal on time. This looks a mess, but to be honest, most of those adds are really, really squishy ones, so just watch your feet. Once a tank pulls them all in, you can focus them. Really, really simple. Or, if you want to get her down, of course you can, but just watch that your survivability doesn't take a hit because you're not focusing on mechanics. Now, when she brings a Bone Colossus in, you have to make sure that you kill this, of course, otherwise you are stuffed. She doesn't take any damage while she's tethered to that. The tank must taunt it, otherwise it will heavy attack the DPS and they will die. You can dodge roll it, but it's very, very risky and you have to be really good with your timing. More adds are coming into the room each time these portals get touched, so be very, very careful. The tank should pull in the range while the melees just come in. It's the same stuff all the way through. Rinse, repeat. Bring the range stuff in, taunt the melee stuff when it gets there. Now for us, we're actually going to focus on the adds just to take the pressure off, because otherwise we are going to get overwhelmed a little bit. So we've took the adds down and now we're just going to finish off the boss. 60% health, she will actually disappear and it's round over. Now it gets really, really tough if you don't know mechanics. Now we have the first boss in the room. You can nuke this down as quick as you want if you like, but you will have to deal with the mechanics. So you have to spread out and block from meteors. You have to go around in a big circle when the fire mechanic comes up and all that good stuff. But you can pace it if you want, or go for the burn. But at low health, it will spawn the second boss. So you remember the archer from round 2? He is now in the room, so the tank has to deal with both of them. And now you have to deal with both mechanics. So while we're out blocking over here, that dude can do snipe attacks, which he's doing now, which needs interrupting, and everything else that comes with it. Now what we've done is we've tried to get the flame boss down quickly to get rid of that mechanic. But remember, if you put the health down of the other one, we're now going around in a circle. Here we go. Oh, we got away with that one. The Wamasu will spawn. So what do you do with the Wamasu? You can kill it, obviously, as fast as you can, but you have to stay away when he does his little squat, and you have to dodge roll if he aims at you. Unfortunately, I fell in the portal there, but I did dodge the lightning attack, so I didn't get nuked. So the trick to the Wamasu is, of course, remember to stay at range. Now, you can just hold on to him as long as possible, as long as you're holding on to the mechanics and paying attention, and get down the adds if it gets too much pressure. And remember to stand in the bees together, stack and heal, and dodge roll out of roots. Now, at low health, the last boss will appear, the vampire. Now, what I would recommend here is to not push the archer. If you push the archer, you're going to get a Hajmotor, and that's really, really difficult to deal with. What I would recommend is just deal with his mechanics of interrupts, bees, and dodge rolls from roots, and in the meantime, focus the vampire. If you focus her and leave him on his own, then you only have to deal with him on his own at the end. But you can kill these in any order you like. Just remember, of course, the lower the health, the more likely the next one is to spawn. This being the last one, of course. Now, watch the portals. Again, we got caught, but there are some archers and mages and all that nasty stuff that come out. So make sure you deal with the undead as quick as possible. But her, you can kind of put her in the corner or in the middle of the room and just try and burn her down. She will try and curse you, which you'll need the portals for, but we did have enough damage to beat that mechanic. But if you don't, then don't worry too much. Just make sure that you do follow the rules. So interrupt the invigorate and drain, stay out the bats, and cleanse if you get cursed. If you get a Bone Colossus in the room, you are going to have to deal with it, so get it down quickly. Now, she is now dead, and we've just got the remaining second boss, the archer. Now, what we're doing here is cleaning the room a bit. We don't want too much pressure. We've got a lot to deal with. We're going to get a Hajmotor in a moment. So what we're doing is we're running around and just getting rid of all the adds to release us of any additional unnecessary pressure while focusing on him. Remember, he's just one target until he brings any adds in anyway. So he's not a real threat. So, once the adds are down, we don't need to worry too much, and we can just focus on him as much as possible. You've got two options here. The Hajmotor is going to spawn. Now, you can kill the Hajmotor and do what you did on round 2, where you just interrupt him as and when and watch out for the bees. Or, you can kill any adds that come in and get rid of that Hajmotor by moving him to the other side of the room as the tank. The tank can basically keep a taunt on the main boss, keep the Hajmotor away, and you just focus the boss and burn him down. The choice is actually yours. You can pace it and deal with every add you want, or you can just move him away and finish him. But just remember, you must stay away from the Hajmotor's face. That AoE that just aimed at us, very, very lucky. If that touches you, you're dead. So, the tank was trying to position it, but it wasn't quite facing the right direction. So just be aware that that mechanic is incoming, and you may have to wiggle a bit to make sure it doesn't kill you. We're a little under pressure there, so we got rid of the remaining ads so we didn't get peppered with fireballs, and then we just finish him off. That fight is a lot more simpler than it looks, but you do have to make sure you don't panic. So, Flame Boss, block meteors, go around in a circle. The Archer Boss, deal the adds per phase, stay in heals and within vicinity of each other for the bees, and of course make sure you interrupt the snipe. And the Vampire Boss, stay out the bats, interrupt, invigorate, and drain, kill the Bone Colossus if you have to, and make sure you cleanse if you get cursed. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but it is a bit tricky to start with. But once you've got it down, there's no additional stuff apart from what I've already mentioned. There's no, oh, here's loads of infusers and incinerators. There's none of that stuff. Remember, of course, again, though, it is heavy mechanics. It's not a DPS race, so if you want to pace it, pace it. Finally, the last round. This is all about mechanics in a nutshell. You must interrupt. If you can't interrupt, you're going to kill your group. Simple as that. Don't be selfish. Pay attention. Every single thing in here needs interrupting. So the melee guys can come in and the tank can obviously taunt them straight away. The range stuff, especially the mages, must be chained in. And your priority focus is, of course, to get the range guys down first because they put some nasty, nasty effects. As you can see that big boom there. That's what happens when you fail to interrupt. It'll put a big bomb on the ground and it will spread and kill everybody. So make sure you interrupt everything. The two-hander enemies need to be grabbed by the tank and interrupted so they don't do burst AoEs, and they must be obviously held to one side so they don't actually aim at the group. In the meantime, we've got a totem that will appear in a random corner, as you can see now, throwing rocks at the group, which will happen with 3 to 4 attacks, and you have to block them, but in the meantime, kill the totem. If you don't kill the totem, you're just going to get absolutely annihilated by rock throwing. Very much like the second boss in Arthurian Archive, where you have the block phase. Now, these red guys are primary. These are your main focus. You must kill these and the totems, and you must stay on interrupts. So you have to interrupt the ranged targets, interrupt the melee targets, interrupt the red ones, kill the totems at all costs, and kill the red guys. Now, you can put loads of AoE down and nuke with lots and lots of ultimates if you want, in the middle, once everything's positioned carefully, but you must always kill the totem, and you must always focus that red guy first. He'll do normally 2 type of interrupt mechanics, and then he'll fire off a heavy attack. You don't want to get caught by the heavy attack as a DPS or a healer because you will die. You can dodge roll it, but if you don't, you're dead. You can't block it. The tank, by the way, can block it. So the tank's primary focus should be those red spirits, and then, of course, the melee stuff. You can see there's a totem in the corner again. Every time you go to kill the totem, or every time it's called that it's up, make sure you're blocking on the way in, because otherwise you're going to get knocked down. Now we've got the Lich. This guy can be fairly well nuked. I mean, he's only got 1.2 million health, I guess, so most people have probably got enough damage to kill him quite quickly. But he does have kind of a cleanse circle over there that the tank needs to kind of stand in. Otherwise, everyone's going to take loads and loads of damage. It's kind of like the volcanic eruption mechanic in Bloodroot Forge. So whenever you see that, get the tank to stand in it and just block and keep aggro on the boss. Just remember, of course, totems need to be focused. So even on the boss fight, they have to be focused. Or mini-boss, if you like. Again, remember, red guys first. Tank can pull this stuff in. Everybody else must pay attention to interrupts. I don't care if it's a ranged or a melee target. If it's doing a red flashy spark mechanic, you have to interrupt it. Otherwise, big booms will go off in the middle of the room and everybody will die. Totems, again, primary those. Have someone looking out for them so they can call them. Whenever you see one, get it down quickly and then get back to the group. Most of the time, the tank will be left with the ads to just deal with while you are dealing with the mechanics as a DPS or a healer. It's really not that stressful if you don't make it stressful. But if you don't pay attention to interrupts and base mechanics, you are stuffed. Now, the melee targets must be taunted by the tank instantly, as must the Lich, the mini-boss. Now, again, as you can see, there's a pad at the back there. It's got a spread and AoE in it. If the tank doesn't get in there quick enough, we're dead. So you have to make sure that you get in there, otherwise it's going to pepper the group with loads and loads of magic damage. Now, I've stepped in it really quickly, and so has the tank to try and take the edge off, but we managed to heal through it. So that was lucky, but you have to be careful of that. In the meantime, make sure you stand in the gaps whenever you see these big circles on the ground. They look more dramatic than they need to be. Just find an empty space, stand in it, and when they blow up, you won't die. If you get caught in it, you're dead. Red guys again, the void spirits must be killed, but not at the expense of the totems. Make sure the totem is dealt with. Block on the way if you can while those 3 or 4 rock throws are coming in so you don't get knocked down. Otherwise it gets really, really tricky, especially if the healer gets knocked over. And then once it's down, go back to the ads and focus stuff. Now, these mages at the side with the purple stave type effects, those must be killed because they are a pain in the ass, and if you don't pull them in, they can put out nasty, nasty boom effects on the ground with the group. But again, your primary focus should be this red guy right here. The tank can block the heavy attacks, and he does do 2 very fast interruptible attacks. So you have to make sure that they are paid attention to. Above all, essentially, every single ad in this room needs to be interrupted. Now we've got a ghost mechanic with basically cleanse pads on the ground with long timers on them. If you get caught by a ghost, or if you get caught by too many, you'll explode. So if you do get affected by them, you need to go and cleanse, but don't make a habit of doing this on purpose. You need to make sure that you got this down and you watch your feet. So, red guys first, interrupt everything else. The tank should chain in those 2 mages left and right. Once they're in the middle, they're a lot easier to deal with. Totem at the back, make sure that's been called, and of course make sure on the way to that totem that you interrupt and get some dots down and all that good stuff. We decided at the back there that Screw has already dealt with the totem, so I don't need to do too much, so I stayed there for more interrupts. But how you want to do that in your own group is up to you. Some of these are not very easy to see as interrupts. They just look like big AoEs that you need to avoid. They can be interrupted, especially the growing circle that comes from the melee 2-hander guys. This way, if you're going to be in trouble, if you've got a red guy from the right that has to be grabbed by the tank straight away, otherwise you are in trouble. Do not run away with those guys. Bring them to the tank. It's a lot easier to manage. Make sure you interrupt them at all costs. Your primary focus, again, is which target to kill first. And it's the same on this one. Always kill those red guys. You've got to get them down. But the totem's up. Get the totem first, then go back to your primary targets. If you get caught, you'll glow blue, kind of. You've got a debuff in your timers, and then you need to cleanse it. That's by the ghosts, by the way, the blue ones. Try not to make a habit of it. you will need to use them on the last boss, and if you accidentally get cursed and start cleansing unnecessarily, you're not going to be able to deal with the explosion mechanic, which will be clearer in a moment. So basically in this round, the tank needs to do a lot of controlling. You need to watch your feet with those ghosts, and it's a simple situation of deal with the ads, kill the totem, deal with the ads, kill the totem. Now this, as you can see there, I stood in a very small gap there and didn't get touched. That's because that's the safe zone. Don't touch the AoEs, you'll survive. Do touch the AoEs, you're dead. Got caught by a ghost, you can cleanse. This round isn't too bad for that, but try again not to do that too often. So the Lich is the main focus here, unless the totem is up, in which case the totem is the focus. You can see the circle on the ground there emitting magic damage, which the tank is now standing in to prevent the group getting wiped. And we go back to the Lich again. So it's ads are important if there are any red ones up, but if they're not, focus the Lich and then kill the ads after. Make sure again these mages must be interrupted, otherwise they'll put a bomb on the group and it really, really hurts. Most other rounds there was a primary kind of interrupt mechanic for a specific target. Here it's everything. Now round 4, just before the final round this can get actually a little bit tricky. This one's one of the worst ones. Get that red guy down as soon as possible and be ready for a totem. It's going to come up pretty soon, so be ready for it. Make sure you interrupt everything. That big boom that just went into the room is enough to wipe everybody out except for the tank. That came from the mage on the far right. Interrupt him. That was a failed interrupt. You have to make sure that you do it. Now, the totem there, of course, the rocks will knock you down, so make sure you're blocking on the way in. As you saw, it will push you onto the ground, and it's really tricky. Get that down and then go back to what you should be hitting. So, should be the red guys, which are now dead. And now it's about interrupting and positioning the remaining ads. This wave can get very, very simple once you relax and understand where everyone should be standing. Make sure, of course, anyone interrupts ads. If people have decided that they're not going to do any interrupting because they don't need to, and they try and put it all in the tank, then you're going to fail this on repeat. Make sure that everyone is paying attention. Totem first, then ads. Totem first, then ads. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Every ad is pretty much the same in terms of its overall mechanics. If you don't bash it, you're dead. Red guy's first, always first. Now, he should be with the tank. It hasn't been taunted, so we're just going to have to deal with it. He tried to heavy attack me, I dodged it. He tries to do any interruptible mechanics, we interrupt it. As you can see, Screw is literally smashing Crush and Shock there. Deal with what you've got at the time. The tank is obviously overwhelmed in the corner. As you can see, he's flooded with ads. There's a totem, get rid of it. Make sure you block occasionally when those rocks go up in the air so you don't get knocked over. Once the totem's down, deal with the remaining ads in the room. As you can see, there is a red spirit again. You should know by now that he's our primary target, so you should know obviously why I am focusing him and not everything else. If he does run loose, he is going to kill people. There is a totem at the back of the room, so we should now go over to that again. The longer the fight goes on, by the way, the more of those you're going to have to deal with. So if you do this very, very quickly, you'll probably only see 1, maybe 2 totems per round. But if you take your time, then you're going to see a lot more. You just have to make sure that you get them down as and when you can. They only throw like 3 or 4 rocks out, but it's not fun. It will knock you down. If a healer gets knocked down, you're stuffed. Lich is primary. Tank needs to stand in a circle. As you saw, one disappeared, and then another one has just now spawned. He needs to go and stand in that as well. Has to stand in it and block. There are no more ads after this, so it's just a case of relax and finish off the room. So interrupt everything you can see while doing the damage that you can to each individual one to make sure that they go down. Focus the Lich if you can, and of course before that, make sure you focus on the totem. Block when the rocks are in the air, otherwise you will get knocked down. Fire is trying to manipulate the ads as much as possible while standing in these little cleanse pads or protection circles to stop the magic actually nuking the room. And we're just basically rinse repeating the mechanics. Kill a totem, interrupt the ads, kill the ads. Kill the totem, interrupt the ads, kill the ads. It's all you've got to do now. You can take your time at this phase. You don't have to panic. There's only one ad in the room now. It's all over. But if you don't interrupt it and he puts a big bomb on the ground, he can still wipe you. So pay attention to mechanics. Now, finally, the last boss, which in my opinion is quite easy. There are rules to this, where he will do multiple different things, which I will demonstrate, of course. But above all, he does have a really, really large, thin, yet wide cleave. So instead of tanking him in the middle of the room, we put him in the corner so that the cleave only goes one way. So as you can see here, we are doing damage to the boss to start with, staying away from the ghosts. Do not touch those unnecessarily. You want to avoid them at all costs until a certain mechanic. But we put him in the corner. The cleave only aims at fire over here. It doesn't aim at anybody else. It's not a problem. There's the cleave. piece of cake. So stack and burn for the most part. Now, you will get totems in the room that you have to deal with, so pay attention to those. Every time you hear that there is one up or someone's keeping an eye on them, you must focus it, so get that thing down ASAP. Once you've killed the totem, go back to the boss. So that's your first basic mechanic. Avoid the cleave, kill the totem, kill the boss. Now, when this happens, you need to pick up any ghosts that have a yellow circle on them, go for 2 each if you can, and then cleanse. Basically, you're picking up the room, getting rid of the ghosts, because the more ghosts in the room when he explodes, the more likely you are to die. So you're basically getting rid of them. But you are on a timer. It has to be done very, very quickly. Straight after them, when the boom is gone, he will drop in a gate bubble. The tank will reposition. Once the bubble's gone, he'll put him back in the corner. Back to the totem. And now we just rinse, repeat. So, totem, boss, avoid the ghosts at all costs until he channels and makes them all go yellow. Interrupt his mechanics when he's putting his sword in the air, by the way, because you don't want the tank to get caught by that. It's really, really nasty. You put a big, big bomb on the ground. Again, this phase again. What we've actually done is we've assigned me and the other DPS and the healer a pad. So there's 3 pads in the room. I've been assigned this one. They've been assigned the other 2 in the corners. And basically, when that ghost phase comes up, we all go close to our corners and grab any ghosts that are nearby it. Don't pick up any more than 3, because otherwise you'll die. But if you pick up 2 each, that should normally be enough to make sure that you all survive. Once you've got them, you cleanse. Every single time after that, he'll drop in the gate bubble. The tank will reposition the boss and then put him back before he does a cleave. Now, if you get totems, of course, focus the totem, not the boss. But if you've got ultimates and AoEs and such, you can overlap them if it spawns here. That can actually help interrupt that mechanic. And when he goes lower health, this is when the game changes a little bit more. So this is rinse repeat right now. Totem, boss, collect the ghosts, cleanse, totem, boss, totem, boss. Nice and simple. But once we've done this, this is when we will start getting a new mechanic where he will spawn 2 shades. So, at 60% health and under, obviously, you will have to deal with this new mechanic. You'll get 2 shades in a room. They both need interrupting, otherwise they'll put bombs on the ground, and they'll start running around trying to hit people. So, your primary focus, again, is always the totem first, then the boss. But, instead of the boss now, we want totems, adds, boss. Totems, add, boss. Do not let those adds live. You want to get them down as soon as possible. The boss doesn't have to be killed fast. You can take as long as you like, as long as you stick to this mechanic all the time. Always kill the adds first, then deal with the boss, and even splash damage him if you have to. Now we've got the ghost to get rid of, pick a couple up each, 2 to 3 at most, then cleanse, then you're done. But we do have a totem in the room, so be very, very careful if you get knocked down. Now he's going to drop in the gate. He does teleport around the room now and start doing his Dragon Knight leap, if you like. So when he does that, make sure you get out of the way. He'll put his sword in the air, he'll do a wicked jump, and he'll decide to land on somebody's head. There'll be a big, big circle under your feet. All you have to do is get out of it. And then the tank will obviously bring him back. So interrupt that. Make sure you stay out of the negate. Make sure you pick up the ghost. Make sure you kill the totems, and always kill the adds. It's a kind of a domino effect now where the mechanics should be very much in place. You should know what to expect. And it's quite simple, rinse, repeat. So again, as you can see, the shadows are up, so they must be killed first. But ghosts. So the tank can hold on to those. 3 other people, the 2 DPS and the healer, will pick up ghosts and cleanse. And when we go back to the boss, he's going to put a negate, be repositioned by the tank, and then we kill the adds while interrupting. Make sure you interrupt at all costs. The adds are really low health, by the way. Whenever he does a Dragon Leap, he will go to 1 person in the room. Don't worry, he'll go back to where he was as long as he's got aggro. Totem again. Make sure you kill it. Back to the boss. If he has no adds, you kill the boss. If he has adds, you kill the adds. He's doing a Dragon Leap, as you can see there. Get out of it. Bam, he lands. Back to normal. Very, very simple. So from here on out, it is literally rinse, repeat, all the way through the fight. Even at execute, there's no bloody difference whatsoever. So, ghosts, cleanse, there's a totem up, go and kill it. Now, when you're picking up ghosts, just bear in mind, don't pick up more than 3. That includes the normal ones. So these ones that are going around the room now, don't touch them. If you do accidentally touch them, don't pick up any more than 2 yellow ones. So be very, very careful with that. If you start picking up loads and loads of these, and then you go and pick up too many yellow ones, you've actually picked up too many ghosts full stop, and you will explode. So be very, very careful with that. That's why we tend to have 2 yellow ones each, and it gives us a little bit of forgiveness area, so we can actually make a mistake every so often and not be penalized for it. So just be careful with that. But essentially, this is no different for the rest of the fight now. Avoid the ghosts if you can, unless it's the cleanse phase, in which case pick them up, couple each, then go to your pad and cleanse it. When the boss does a Dragon Leap, just avoid it, then come back in again. when the boss drops a negate bubble, which he will do after the boom phase. Then the tank will reposition it, and then go along the fence again and put him back in the corner. Whenever the ads are up, focus the ads at all costs. Don't sit there and panic and go, oh, the boss is low health, the boss is low health, quick, kill it. You don't need to do that. You'll actually mess up your own run by panicking. Totems, ads, boss, totems, ads, boss. Now, the proxies are low health, but they do cause quite a bit of a problem. So, again, make sure you interrupt those. Otherwise, they will put the same mechanic out as the mages did from the previous round, where they will launch a bomb into the air or land on the ground, and not only will it hit you on the floor, but it will also burst as well and do loads and loads of damage. You don't want that to happen. Cleanse again, couple of piece. That one disappeared, but I think we've got enough anyway, so we're good. Explosion, boom, everybody's alive. Now, if this is a really tricky one, if you are the tank, or anyone, in fact, for example, and you're not very good at picking those ghosts up as a group, and you don't think you're going to survive it the majority of the time, we did try something out that does actually work. If you put mist form on, and you know for sure you haven't collected enough ghosts and that explosion is going to kill everyone, if you activate mist form when that explosion goes off, it's actually a damage amount, and you end up mitigating it, so you can survive. We actually used to do this without picking up hardly any ghosts whatsoever and just mist form in every phase. So it's a choice, really. You've got some options if you are struggling. Bit of an insurance tip for you there. But essentially, just stick to the rules. The fight can go on for as long or as short as you like, as long as you're following the mechanics. If you want to do this in 2 minutes flat, go for it. If you want to take your time and take 30 minutes being really, really clean with mechanics only and you don't have a lot of DPS, you will still do it. There is no execute phase where anything enrages. There's no panic mode. There's none of that stuff. So even if he's got 1 million health left and you're not quite sure if you're going to kill him quick enough, just do the mechanics, go and collect some more ghosts, complete that phase, kill the ads, and then finish him gradually. It's not a DPS race. Yes, there are achievements to do this fast, but to start with, while you're practicing, take your time. There's no rush. We could have nuked him there. He's got 1.2 million health left, but we're not going to. We're going to finish the totem, we're going to pick the ghost up, do another cleanse phase, and carry on as normal. And this is a choice you make at execute. Do you stick to the mechanics or do you go for the nuke? Honestly, I would tell you to stick to the mechanics. He's really, really low health now. Sure, you can kill him, but if the ads are in the room and you think you're going to struggle, just kill the ads first. It's absolutely fine. Of course, at execute, don't forget your interrupts. They are key, and they will kill you if you don't do it. The key focus to this overall arena is people paying attention to the things they were taught in the tutorial. If you don't know how to interrupt, learn quickly or you're going to fail. So hopefully it helped, hopefully it wasn't too boring, hopefully it wasn't too confusing. There is a lot going on. It is the most difficult 4-man content in the game by design. It's supposed to be hard, so don't beat yourselves up if you're having trouble with it, but practice makes perfect. Just remember, if you don't understand how the mechanics work, you can obviously go backwards in the video and review them, but I will be giving you a written guide as well, explaining all the boss fights, and of course a brief description of the priority targets in each round. So, thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate the support. If you are not subscribed on YouTube, please do hit that button. It is free. And of course, don't forget, inside the description and the info section, if you like, there are some links for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are for the arena guides, the dungeon guides, the trials, and of course the builds. And for Patreon, of course, if you were concerned, there are multiple perks in there from low to high, which are mixed between Discord access, early access to build videos, one-to-one services, and of course stream takeovers and stuff like that as well. All the info is on that page and it's linked in the description. Once again, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.